Welcome to an In the Studio vlog. I'm Grace, also known as Schlea Studios on Instagram. I last made a vlog in 2018. It wasn't that great, but I'm back and I've since acquired a new set of watercolors, the Mijello Mission Gold 36 paint set. I really like them. They're Korean pigments and they are really high quality. They came with a mixing palette that's plastic, which is what's pictured on the left. I don't like it though. I find the surface texture of plastic awkward to mix on. So I invested in this tin and these little half pans, and I squeezed the tube paint into these half pans, and I really like the result. They do crack a bit, as you can see in this shot, but I'm not too worried about that aesthetic. The tubes are tiny. They're only about 7 milliliters, and that's really the perfect size. I squeeze out about half a tube, and that successfully fills a half pan. And the metal tin, its little divots, its surface, it's easier for me to mix paint on. Now, I've been on the hunt with watercolor when it comes to skin tone mixing, and I've learned a lot from other YouTubers. This greenish yellow color is the closest the Mijello set has to a green gold tone. I love the effect that Tori has gotten with a green gold mixing with a rose madder or a quinacridone permanent rose. There's something about that magenta, deep, punchy red that just looks good. It just gives this beautiful reddish, brown, peach type of skin color that looks great when layering. This is actually footage from a long time ago, back in March, with some beautiful sunshine coming through my studio window. This is when I first received the half pans. I had the paints from Mijello in my studio for a good month before the half pans came in. I ordered those from Jackson Arts, which is in the UK. It's wonderful. I love the company. The company is one of my favorites when it comes to their selection for supplies, but because I'm in the US, shipping does take a little longer. And with COVID-19, it takes extra long, but otherwise, I will use them again. I also ordered something from Alibaba, which took I think it took 5 months to arrive to me, but that is because of the times. 2020 was a weird year. So I also made a color chart. This has actually been way more helpful than I thought. I approached it as more of a therapeutic process just for me to enjoy laying down the paints, learning how each of them react on cold pressed paper. And the chart now hangs right above my desk. I reference it all the time. It really helps, especially when I'm approaching a portrait or I receive a new commission and I'm looking at new faces of strangers or faces of people I've known for a long time, friends of friends or friends of family, but they're in different lighting than I would have thought, or there's a light cast from a certain angle in the photo and I want to stay true to the photo reference, but this chart has helped me so much in color matching. So I am one of those people that likes a lot of options in a color palette. I don't feel strong enough yet in my watercolor mixing skills to work from a limited palette. So I have not been afraid to add to this palette. There are spaces anyway. So I've looked online at other brands. There are, I think, 3 paints that are not Mijello. One of them is a Daniel Smith. It's a blue hue. It's not a true blue. I also added that Winsor & Newton Cotman Ivory Black. I had that black on hand. It's not my favorite brand, but I wanted to fill a half pan. And I also added this lavender Rembrandt. This is probably not as high quality, this Rembrandt watercolor, as the Mijello pigments, but it is smooth. I like it. I'm not dissatisfied with Rembrandt. I've watched a lot of reviews on Rembrandt paints as well, and so far so good. I'm not afraid to buy more. I probably will be trying a few more in the future. And if I can find them in the tube form, I will put them in these little half pans that I have left over from Jackson's Art Supplies and Alibaba. I got them from both places. Now here's where the magic begins. This is the watercolor sketchbook that inspired me to get back into vlogging. I only ever posted 2 vlogs way back when. I'm not even sure I'm gonna link them down below. They're just so old. They're not really what I'm going for anymore. But the vlog material that I have been eating up is by Tori and by Fran Nerd. I will link both of their channels in my description. Those ladies are just so talented. Both of their styles are so different, but I will say that Tori inspired this type of work that I'm about to do in this next section of the vlog. Sketching first with a vermilion Prismacolor Colorase pencil, and I love the look it leaves on the edges of a portrait. That faint red glow, because I don't really erase my pencil marks after I lay down paint, or before I lay down the paint. I like to leave the pencil marks, and I do that in this sketch. I speed it up here because it did take a while. This portrait took at least an hour and a half, so I try to speed it up. I leave my little paint chips as almost inspiration and a border for my eyes while I do this. I find it helps for me to not just be looking at a blank page. I don't always do this, but for this portrait it did help. And this paper, man, it doesn't take pencil crazy well. I really like a soft lead on a sketch paper, kind of pencil drawing feel, and with watercolor pieces I just don't get that. You know, I feel like I have to push through this initial step to get a good sketch down, laying on the paper the way I like. I don't love the feel of pencil against watercolor paper in my hand. Like, that tactile feeling is just, for me, it's not half as satisfying as the feeling of pencil, like a soft graphite, like a B8 against a different kind of paper, a smoother paper. But without fail, if I push through and actually take my time in making a detailed, proportional sketch before I lay down watercolor paint, I do find that I like my painting more personally. Other people are always nice, and my family, my friends, oh, it's so good, but I'm not satisfied with it more often than not. If I rush the sketch part, or if I don't sketch it completely. I could have even sketched this piece a bit more, but I knew for the sake of vlogging and for the sake of recording while I paint in the next step, that if I had a more complete sketch, I would actually paint in a more fluid and cohesive way, which I think is the result I got with this. I wanted to see how layers of skin tone were going to play on this paper. So this sketchbook is the Paul Ruben's 100% hot pressed watercolor sketchbook, and it's a block. I actually didn't realize that until it arrived because I did not read the description thoroughly enough. But of all the beautiful reviews of this sketchbook on YouTube by other vloggers that I was able to find, it takes layers of watercolor really well. And I'm actually pleased with my accidental purchase of the block because the paper doesn't rumple. Like I said, I'm still kind of amateur with watercolor. I don't stretch the paper ahead of time like I should. I have a different method of approach when I am making portraits, custom orders. that are of larger sizes, and I don't buy that paper in block format. I buy it loose leaf, kind of like a cup of tea, loose leaf tea. But this paper in this particular block, oh my gosh, it was amazing. I really liked how I was able to layer on so much water and paint, and as soon as it dried, which was later that night, but even looking back at it the next day, I did not cut the paper until a day later to see how it would flip up. So I did wait a good long time before removing that sheet from the block, and maybe that's part of why it dried so flat. But it was beautiful. It's a beautiful result, and I'm really pleased that it didn't rumple at all. All of you supporters and customers have been so extra kind and asking if certain pieces I've made are for sale or not, and if they can buy the originals. So with this sketchbook vlog, I think what I'm going to do is make available for purchase every piece I make as an original for sale. So I'll link my shop down below, and that way all of the process that I show here on the vlog can be turned into an actual product that you guys can purchase if you want to. First and foremost, it's a form of practice and extrinsic motivation for me. It's really healthy for me to create something that's not just in my head as a to-do list, but for others. I work harder at it when I promise to myself I'm going to show others what the end product will look like. I know a lot of other people that operate like that too. I wish I could be the kind of person that says I'll do something and then I do it to the fullest without needing to show others my steps, my how-tos, or the end product, but it's just not how I roll. And on that note, this portrait was inspired by a little photo I found on Pinterest. I strayed so much from the actual look and reference, though, that I don't feel compelled to post the information about the photographer or the model. It just turned out so different than the original photo, but that's okay. These pieces are meant to be experimentative for me. This first piece in this page 1 of the sketchbook, especially because I wanted to test the paper, see how it would react to the Mijello paints, as well as the types of brushes I have. These brushes that I used are nothing special. They are from Alibaba Express. They're very cheap. Like I said, it took about 3 to 5 months for them to arrive to me because I ordered them during a pandemic. But I'm not unhappy. They won't last long, that's for sure. One day I might graduate to a higher quality watercolor brush. At this point in my career, I've invested in higher quality oil painting brushes for the different portraits and projects I've made with oil painting. Oil painting was my first, I guess, material that I've learned with. I've done a lot of event painting, live event painting at weddings and anniversary type of gatherings, which is really fun. And if you don't have a good brush in your hand during a moment where time is of essence and you have to paint fast and effectively, you don't have a lot of time to redo brush strokes. A high quality brush mattered in an instance like that. I still do that, and oh my goodness, caring for a brush that you're using oil paint with, or even acrylic. I don't personally like acrylic. I've had my experiences with that, and it's just not my medium. I really prefer oils or watercolors, which I know are wildly different, but the care and keeping for a watercolor brush is so much simpler than an oil painting brush. So maybe in the future I'm going to reverse my style, and I'm going to buy lower quality oil painting brushes, maybe just 1 or 2 really good ones, and not worry about the damage I'm causing them, and instead invest in some high quality watercolor brushes that I know I will be able to care for and that I can keep alive for the test of time. We'll see. We shall see. We shall see together if you continue to join me on this sketchbook vlogging journey. I think it's going to be fun. And please, please tell me what you're learning. All of you watercolorists out there, I love to learn. I am the least bit offended when people tell me, oh, hey, you should do this instead. Or, ooh, you're doing that wrong. Oh, you're ruining the paper. I don't mind. I don't mind that at all. I mean, try not to be rude, but please bombard me with suggestions and new tips and tricks, or old tips and tricks. If you've learned from the masters and you've been in and out of traditional art school, I would love to learn. I have no traditional art school background. My father was an artist of sorts. He did some photography school and painting on and off. He didn't have a 4-year degree. He did kind of like a career school thing here in the States, almost like Polaris. If you're an Ohioan, you know what that's all about. Like a trade school. And but he's a natural. You can tell when he would show me and my siblings some of his paintings growing up, some of the old sketches he'd made. He had some really cool old Sakura watercolors too that I acquired, and I think maybe in a future vlog I'll show those. They are very dried up, but I'd like to try to bring them to life. And the box is just the coolest aesthetic too. So yeah, that's where I guess the art comes in to my blood and the interest to pursue it from my dad. But I don't have any fine art schooling. I have a bachelor's in science. I got a 4-year degree studying mild to moderate disabilities and the psychology of education for individuals with disabilities on the spectrum, autism, Down syndrome. I'm still very interested in that. And I taught in a public school district for a couple years before I switched over to insurance, which was hella boring. But just different things in my life kind of led me to move further away from the districts where I had connections with different principals and different communities. Deep down, if I could just keep learning, oh, I would totally choose that. I love learning. I don't want to stop learning. I don't really think anyone should stop learning. Truly, if time and money was no object in my life, I would definitely have some other schooling under my belt. I like the idea of getting a master's or 2 or a PhD in so many different topics. I'm not just interested in the arts or the education and the psychology world. I love science. I love biology so much. In some of my past work and past research projects, I've done things with green energy and the different ecosystems and how our decisions affect everything, what really happens to stuff, what really happens to waste. And I want to further the education of that topic as well. So for the next, I don't know how much more time there's left to this. I'm going to play some music. It's actually a cute little tune my husband wrote and recorded, but he's so talented. He makes the coolest, weirdest music. So I'll play that. You can watch me swatch the Mijello colors I used on the edge of the paper, just so I could see the palette that I came together with for the portrait. And enjoy. See you next time. Bye.